on to my next animal that we lost this year as well. So my stepson begged for years to have a bearded dragon, and we wanted to make sure that he was responsible enough to have one. So we didn't get one for him right away. But on his 16th birthday, we decided it was a good time for him to get one. So we went to this whole exhibit that had bearded dragons, other type of reptiles like frogs and other lizard type dudes, and snakes. And so that was really fun to have him pick which bearded dragon he wanted. He was like this small when we got him. He was the cutest little thing. Oh my God, he was so adorable. So, it was his responsibility to take care of the bearded dragon. His name was Nax. Parthenax is what he named him from a video game. So he was in, taking care of him, feeding him, making sure he had water, getting a bath, making sure he stayed hydrated. But some issues occurred right before my stepson turned 18, and he no longer lived in my house. So he wasn't responsible enough to take the bearded dragon, so he stayed with me and my husband. So he became ours. And so, it's been a few years. He's cool. He, he ran around, locked up in our bedroom because, a couple of my dogs wanted to eat him. That was funny in itself. But for a couple days, he was sleeping a lot. And, at first we thought he was just in hibernation. But, he wasn't moving a lot. He kept having some really nasty, out of his bum. So we knew he was a little bit sick. And I didn't know how to take care of a sick bearded dragon. So that was interesting in itself. So one morning, my husband and I got up and I made him coffee and he was getting ready to go to work. And, I would pass his tank and I'm like, hey, Naxie Poo, good morning, and it was 5:30 in the morning. So, I was tired and, my husband left for work and I walked by his tank again and he was laying in a really weird spot that I've never seen him lay. So I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. And I knew he was sick for the last couple of days. So I was like, okay, are you still alive in there? So I opened his door and, I kind of poke him to see if he would wake up. I don't know if that was a nice thing to do, but I did it anyway. He didn't open his eyes like he normally would. So I kind of was like petting him and he was cold. I'm like, okay, why are you so cold? So I picked him up and I put him under his heat lamp. And I'm like, okay, that's really weird. Why didn't he move when I picked him up? So, I started crying because I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. He's dead. But I wasn't quite positive because maybe he was just sleeping, hibernating. I didn't know, So I went back to bed for like 2 hours or so. I wake up, he's still in the same exact spot. I put him in. So I called my vet and I'm like, do you guys take care of reptiles? And the vet that I use, they don't. So I called another vet and they said they do. So I was like, okay, I need to make an appointment because either my bearded dragon is sick or he's dead. And I need to know which. So I bring him in. I mean, I know he's dead. At this point, I know he's dead because bearded dragons can't breathe if you flip them over on their back. And that's what I did. He didn't move. I mean, I was flipping out. He was like sitting in my car in the passenger seat, and I was driving, I was crying. I just kept looking over at him. I'm like, oh my God, you know, freaking out. And I get to the vet and they bring him back and they come back out holding him and his mouth was like open. And I'm like, oh God, it's true. It's really true. And, so they were like, oh, he's dead. He's dead. Okay. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay, I would like to get him cremated, just like I did with my husky. So, you know, about a week, 2 weeks later, I get his ashes back. And, you know, I have Sheba and him on my fireplace mantle. And it's just really sad seeing them up there. Really sad. He was 5, by the way. My husky was 14, by the way, when she died. So when she died, you know, it was, okay, she's 14, you know, yeah, she could have lived a little longer if she was healthy enough, but she was 14, so it's like, that was another decision that we had to make. So my bearded dragon, he was 5, and they can live up to like 13, 15 years old, just like a dog, if they're inside bearded dragons. Like outside, like in the desert, they can live up to 5, like 5 years, and they'll die. But that was really sad, saying goodbye to him. On to my next dog. So we had a dog that we got from the shelter. He was 8 months old. His name was Sebastian. And he was the cutest dog. He was a Beagle Boxer mix. When we got him, he was really skinny and scared. So for like a week straight, he would just be under the blanket on my lap, and I wouldn't move even if my butt hurt. But then, you know, he's like, okay, this is a safe home. I'm happy. Let me start moving around and like getting into things, you know. He was terrible at getting into things. He got into everything. He ate anything that he saw when it comes to food. There was this one time I had 2 boxes of chocolate Debbie snacks still in the boxes, unopened. I hid them. Well, I didn't hide them. They were in my nightstand drawer. I left one day, and this is before I put my dogs in a kennel every single time that I left the house. I came home, the nightstand drawer was open. Both boxes were torn apart.